Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, you're watching Top 10's Net, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 reasons that chickens are the most badass animals.
Number 10. Farmers made them wear sunglasses in the 50s. Sunglasses are the universal pop culture shorthand for cool, with it being generally accepted that the more awesome you are, the more people are willing to overlook you wearing them in places where they're not necessary. With that in mind, consider that in the 50s, millions of domestic chickens wore sunglasses indoors, at night, and while sleeping. While the image of millions of chickens wearing tiny, custom-made sunglasses is certainly an amazing one, you're probably curious as to why. Well, chickens are naturally aggressive creatures, and it appears to be hard-coded into their DNA to attack anything covered in blood on sight, something we'll explain in further detail in a later entry. Since this was the days before battery farming, farmers decided that the best way to stop chickens from seeing blood was to outfit them with tiny red-tinted sunglasses that they had to wear at all times. In other words, farmers in the 50s made every chicken they owned wear ruby-colored sunglasses, just like Cyclops from the X-Men, to stop them from pecking each other to death. How metal is that? And hey, speaking of metal, number 9, they directly inspired one of the greatest guitarists of all time. Buckethead is a guitarist we're guessing few people reading this article are familiar with, unless you played Guitar Hero 2, in which case you might know him as the guy who wrote the hardest song in the entire game, Jordan. For anyone unfamiliar with Guitar Hero, Buckethead also contributed to the soundtrack for the 2 live-action Mortal Kombat movies, played with Guns N' Roses before being fired for being too weird, and wrote a guitar solo for the Power Rangers movie, so you know he's a cool dude. He also loves chickens. As his name suggests, Buckethead plays guitar with, well, a bucket on his head, specifically a bucket from KFC to obscure his face. Buckethead has maintained this gimmick for his entire career, and has subsequently crafted an entire mythology about himself, directly crediting chickens with his ability to play blisteringly fast solos, stating that whenever he plays, he's channeling their spirit through his guitar. This is notable because while Buckethead has never enjoyed mainstream success, he's widely considered one of the most skilled guitarists of his generation for his range and ability to shred. He's also one of the most prolific musicians of recent times, releasing nearly 300 albums during his career, and has collaborated on songs with everyone from Serj Tankian to Viggo Mortensen. Meaning chickens are indirectly responsible for a musical collaboration between the guy who wrote the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers soundtrack and Aragorn. Keeping with the theme of all things metal, we should also mention that, number 8, there's an insanely metal chicken that is entirely black. Ayam Cemani is the name given to an obscure and rare breed of chicken hailing from Indonesia that is notable for a singular, amazingly metal feature. It is entirely black, and when we say entirely, we mean it. Literally every part of an Ayam Cemani, save for its blood, which is deep crimson, is jet black, including its beak, eyes, organs, and even its bones. Prized for their startling appearance, Ayam Cemani regularly sell for thousands of dollars in the States and are sometimes referred to by the kick-ass sobriquet of Lamborghini of poultry due to their desirability and rareness. The bird's coloration is due to a quirk of genetics that results in an overabundance of pigments in the animal's body, something we'd probably be inclined to discuss more if we weren't currently thinking about how awesome a band's name, Lamborghini of Poultry, is. Moving on, did you know that, number 7, chickens can live longer without a head than the time they can fly? Despite being birds with all the physical characteristics typical of their feathered cousins, chickens are exceptionally poor flyers. To date, the longest ever recorded time for a chicken flight is about 13 seconds, during which time the chicken in question managed to cover just over 300 feet. In contrast, the longest time a chicken has ever survived without a head is about 18 months. Mike the Chicken, or Miracle Mike as he was billed at 50s sideshows, was a Wyandotte chicken that became world famous when he managed the not unimpressive feat of living for 18 months without a head. As unbelievable as this all sounds, it wasn't a hoax. Mike was examined by dozens of experts, and his existence is corroborated by photos and periodicals from the period, which begs the question, well, what the hell? As it turns out, most of a chicken's brainstem, which controls most basic bodily functions, is nestled inside of their neck, and in Mike's case, the farmer cutting his head off with the big axe missed it completely while simultaneously cutting off the rest of his head. This combined with a fluke blood clot saw the wound close almost instantly, leaving Mike without a head but the basic ability to walk around and do chicken things. His owner, feeling sorry for him, took to feeding Mike with an eyedropper, pushing food and drink into the open wound where his face used to be. As impressive as all of this sounds, it's hardly surprising given the chicken's history as a hardened warrior animal, arising as a result of them. Number 6. Being originally domesticated for their killing ability, not their taste. As noted in a previous entry, chickens are seemingly programmed at a genetic level to hate the sight of blood and will viciously attack anything they see covered in it. This is thought to be because the bird was first domesticated by early man around 10,000 years ago, specifically to coax them into fighting to the death. Even before man began to breed combat chickens, the bird was known for its extreme aggressiveness, to the point that it's claimed an Athenian general was able to rouse his troops into defeating the Persian army by making them carefully observe how chickens would fight to the death, not for the glory of the gods, but simply to win. A story that's important because, if true, it would mean chickens helped create Western civilization as we know it. Over time, we as a species realized that chickens were delicious and began to instead breed them for food rather than cockfighting. However, the desire to murder one another still burns in the hearts of many chickens, and as a result, cockfighting is still a thing. Which is why we can now tell you the story of a time where, number 5, a chicken stabbed a man to death with a knife. While we've mostly bred out the aggressive tendencies of chickens, the desire to fight still remains within them on a primal level, and the jerks of the world take advantage of this to make them fight to the death for their amusement. In 2011, one unidentified chicken decided to take a stand by stabbing a guy during a cockfight with a knife. According to the official police report, the man, identified as one Jose Luis Ochoa, was kick-stabbed in the thigh by a rooster, which had a small blade strapped to its foot, presumably in an attempt to give it a literal edge in combat. Ochoa later died at hospital, which would be sad if he wasn't a guy who had been previously convicted of being a prick to chickens by making them fight to the death. But here's the weirdest part. Ochoa was just a guy in the audience watching the cockfight when he was stabbed, and yet somehow the chicken seemed to know that he'd been convicted of subjecting his chicken brothers to the same fate and singled him out for an attack. While we can't confirm that the chicken specifically targeted Ochoa, we're going to say that we wouldn't be at all surprised to learn that it did. Number 4, they can grow testicles seemingly through sheer force of will. Like many creatures, adult male and female chickens have a number of distinguishing features that help differentiate them from one another, most noticeably the cool little mohawk things seen on roosters. Curiously though, female chickens can not only grow a wattle, but can change sex entirely under the right circumstances if they feel like it. This is because female chickens, rather than having 2 ovaries, have 1 ovary and an undeveloped sex organ inside their bodies that is sort of like a proto-testicle. If a female chicken finds itself suffering from a disease or illness that harms its functional ovary in any way, the proto-testicle can turn into a new ovary, or in some cases simply flood the chicken's body with male hormones, turning into a real testicle, and make the chicken become biologically male in almost every way, save for the ability to breed. This option, however, isn't open to male chickens as they don't possess the same undeveloped sex organ that females do, which is probably a good thing given that female chickens sometimes, for no reason, number 3, lay giant eggs that contain other eggs. A fertile chicken can lay an egg almost every single day, and in 99.9% of cases, the egg will look just like any other. Sometimes, though, the egg will be, shall we say, different. By which we mean sometimes it will contain another freaking egg. Typically laid by juvenile or exceptionally fertile chickens, double or exhibit eggs, as they should almost certainly be known, are rare and normally harmless to the chicken laying them. However, sometimes they will double or even triple the size of a regular egg, which can't be comfortable for the chicken, and will, as mentioned, contain another fully developed egg. And yes, before you ask, it is possible for this second egg to contain another egg, and so on if the chicken's reproductive system is particularly out of sync and keeps releasing the signal to produce another egg while one is already in its body. Additionally, chickens can sometimes lay eggs that are empty, in that they contain an egg white but no yolk, something we're only bringing up so that we can tell you that these eggs are sometimes known as fart eggs. Number 2, the devil is afraid of them. The crow of a rooster is synonymous with mourning, and, well, little else. Go back a few hundred years, though, and the crow of the rooster was regarded by some as the most singular badass noise in the entire world because it was noted as being one of only a few sounds that Satan himself feared. Chickens have long been associated with God and have historically been seen as a creature capable of warding off evil simply by screaming really loud. This is because a rooster's crow, as noted, is synonymous with the rising of the sun and the end of darkness, which Satan and all his demon buddies need to skulk around in. As a result, Beelzebub came to treat the creature that heralded the morning with great respect and fear. On the other hand, because of their long-held association with Christianity, those with an interest in the occult looking to sacrifice a creature invariably choose to slaughter a rooster, as doing so is symbolically tantamount to spitting in the eye of God, which is still pretty badass, but kinda sucks for the rooster in question. Number 1. You can become a beastmaster by hypnotizing one. We hope by this point in the video you've learned enough about chickens to think of them as more than the things they make McNuggets out of, and maybe even, like us, you think they're pretty cool. If so, you may be pleased to learn that it's possible and surprisingly easy to hypnotize a chicken and make it your mind slave. By doing nothing more than gently holding its head and drawing a small line away from its beak, it's possible to immobilize a chicken for upwards of half an hour, turning it into a living statue frozen by your superior will. This trick takes advantage of a quirk in the chicken's DNA that paralyzes it when confronted with a specific threat, in this case a line in the dirt, which is regarded as a holdover in the animal's genetics from history. The trick neither hurts the chicken nor causes any lasting harm, but it will make you look like a total badass if you do it immediately after telling people that chickens are programmed at a genetic level to murder, can live without their heads, and are feared by Satan, and possibly helped create democracy as we know it.
So I really hope you found that video interesting, if a little bit bizarre. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Also, over there on the right, check out some of our other videos, and thank you for watching.